people talk about the ETS or greenhouse gases, pastoral farmers get quite defensive. I think there's been a lot of fear and misinformation. Speaking as somebody who's involved in the rural community, most farmers are confused.
I think there is a spectrum of views out there in the farming community about the ETS. At the current time, any charges on New Zealand emissions is just going to be a tax. It's just going to be additional cost, which is worn straight into the bottom line.
If somebody comes to any business in New Zealand and says, hey, we're going to tax you an extra 30 grand a year, the farmer will do what every business person will do. They will either try and cut costs, which is pretty hard for them to do at the moment, or increase revenue. And the only way they know how to increase revenue is increase production. Farmers will just dial up the palm kernel truck, or they'll intensify and put more stock on, which is not what you want.
I mean, I'm an economist, so I love incentives, but not even I am stupid enough to believe that if you set a price and let things rip, that that's actually going to solve all the world's problems. This is a really complicated biological issue.
For any policy to be effective, it has to seem fair to people, and particularly when you're dealing with 40,000 farmers, you can't have them all opposed to you and make a policy work. And you're going to have a better policy if they've been involved, because they'll be able to point out the problems and they'll be able to identify opportunities that people in Wellington are not going to have thought of.
If you want something to change behaviour, you need somebody who understands the business to make sure that what you're implementing is going to change behaviour, because you might actually be making a situation worse.
The costs of reducing your emissions profile are significant. Within that context, it's very difficult to get people to change behaviour voluntarily. So you're going to require legislation in order to bring about that change. But we have to be very careful as to how we implement that legislation, because the farming business model is stressed or is under tension now.
A conference